So I'm not giving you anything nice to look at, but I'm just going to talk about debating and certain aspects of the rhetorical process. Now, a fact is something that can be shown to be true, to exist, or to have happened. The truth or actual existence of something, as opposed to the assumption of something or the belief about something. Now, an opinion is a belief or judgment that rests on grounds insufficient to produce complete certainty and absolute certainty. Why people can't understand the difference between an opinion and a fact is beyond me. Now I'm going to use the so-called quote-unquote master debate in the Truth Setting You Free as a couple examples in this video. Now, Truth Setting You Free made the claim that the Japanese developers in Kojima that were talked about in the TOUT were paid by Microsoft as evidence of his PlayStation University article he wrote a while back. Now, I wrote a comment on that and I asked him to provide evidence and proof of his claim, and the truth could not. Instead, he played on his circumstantial beliefs and judgments on the situation, beliefs and judgments that rested on insufficient grounds to produce complete certainty. In other words, he was basically just telling me his opinion. If what the truth really said about Microsoft paying those developers was a fact, then he would have been able to show that it was true, that it existed, that it had happened, as opposed to the speculation or belief that something may or may not have happened. This is why I find it funny about people trying to push their opinion as a fact. Now, a lot of people may not know about the artistic proofs. There's 3 of them and how they appeal to their audience. This is a lot what goes down on the YT in these discussions. Now, the first one is Ethos, which is the appeal to the integrity and the expertise of the person, of the writer or the redder, or in this case, the person making the vid. So this is what I mainly use, as when it comes down to gaming expertise, everybody knows I'm pretty much near the top. Well, not everybody. A majority of people know I'm pretty much near the top. I use my expertise, my credibility, and my knowledge as a gamer and a long-time gamer as an appeal to my audience and my audience I'm talking to. This is something that fanboys really cannot use because they don't have the expertise, as they're usually localized to a singular platform or a singular company. This is an appeal that is rarely used by the Truth Setting You Free, because when it comes down to expertise, his only expertise is in the PlayStation brand. Any appeal to Ethos that he makes would just end up making him looking unqualified or not lack of credible. Now, Logos, which is an appeal to the appropriate and logical arguments, this is one that he uses a lot. This is the proof that Truth Setting You Free uses as one of his strongest points. He uses the logical arguments to appeal to his audience, a lot of which, in my opinion, are good. It's just a shame that he's so contradicting and hypocritical with his uses of logos that it's kind of funny. I mean, if the guy knew how to properly debate and accept that what he says isn't always fact and that it's his belief and it's his logic, his stance would become much stronger than what it actually is. Now, the final one, Pathos, is an appeal to the audience's sympathy. This is the other proof that the truth uses. This is where the proof, or I refer to him as using the propaganda. He tries to play on the audience's sympathies of being former 360 owners, tries to paint Microsoft in a negative fashion, tries to paint a multi-system owners in a negative manner by making negative connotations to them as industry whores and calling anyone who has owned, does own, or in the future will own a 360 an expat. These are basically ways to play on his audience, which is an audience mainly consisting of the PS3 fanbase. He's trying to paint everything other than PS3 in a negative light. As an example would be, why do you need multiple consoles? And then following through with his justification of PS3 itself is good enough for me, which plays to his audience, which is primary PlayStation 3 users. Claiming that you waste money, that you're an industry whore, that you don't need to buy all this stuff and buy all the top games, all other plays to his audience that he's making, which try to further justify that it's some kind of negative, it's some kind of thing that is bad to own multiple systems. Now, the 4 propositions of debating principles come next. The first is the proposition of fact, which is a statement to be proven true or false as the evidence is gathered. Now, a proposition of fact is not really a fact. It's just facts or truths proved only through such means as, experiment, testing, measurement, scientific observation. These are more things that are going to be proven later. Like examples, will the PS3 pass the 360 in sales? Will the PS3 have more critically acclaimed games than the 360 in 2010, or vice versa? The proposition of value. This is one that he uses occasionally, like other people use it, like is PC gaming too expensive? is getting a Blu-ray player and Wi-Fi and all that other stuff, buying a launch PS3 for $600. It's about value. Is Xbox Live too expensive? Is the $50 a year worth it? Now the third would be the proposition of explanation. This is an attempt to determine whether a cause and effect relationship exists between two actions and or events. Did Sony and Microsoft make Natal and the PSN line because of Nintendo? Will Sony or Nintendo charge online because of Xbox Live? Things like that. You got a cause and you have an effect, and then you make an argument based on what you think. Now, the proposition of policy evaluates the potential courses of action. It answers the question. It asks and answers the question: should we change? Like, should we do this? Should we do that? This is when people talk about things like, should we pay for online? Should we put up with unreliable hardware? Should Sony charge for a PSN? Should Sony have cross-game chat? Should Sony MS have gone the way of motion controllers with the Natal and the PSN wand? Now, absolutes are things I always find funny, because like absolutes are like things like never, always, need, must. If you use any of these, chances are you're going to be failing in your point unless you're absolutely certain that it's 100% clear without a shadow of a doubt fact. Making the claim of never means never. Making the claim of always means always. When people say people never watch my videos, people always hate me, those are things that are retarded, because if one person is exception to that rule, that whole claim is debunked. If you're going to use never and always, it has to apply for every situation. 1 plus 1 is always 2, but 1 plus 1 is never 3. Need and must are especially fun here. People do not know what the word need means. Need is something that cannot be done without, meaning there is no alternatives. And I find it fun how people use the word need, like how Black Ninja used people need video games. I find it hilarious how people claim that there is a need for Blu-ray, that Blu-ray is needed for gaming, when the reality is there's games on Wii, 360, and PC, so clearly it's not a need, it'd be more classified as a luxury. So anytime I see someone use an absolute, I pretty much am always going to laugh. Now finally, it's all about proof of claim. Why do I see people always talking about they speak about the truth and the facts, and why don't I see people ever coming out with credible sources with evidence supporting these claims? Like when the Truth Setting You Free said that it wasn't Microsoft and the Xbox 360 that lowered the PS3's price, it was just the Wii. When I provide evidence and a source that was credible from CNN stating otherwise, but he sidestepped that, but it's whatever. Now, there's nothing wrong with debating logic and opinions, but I love to see when people make claims talking about how they speak the truth and how they speak the fact, yet these are the same people that cannot come up with reputable sources or evidence to back up their claims. Look at General G. When they're talking about the whole crisis thing, I'm giving reputable sources to Beyond 3D that's talking about resolution, people like Sega, people like EA, people making these games, people like they're talking about the Xbox Live update and stuff that allowed for the HDMI to go to the native 1080p. But here he's talking about Shane Kim, somebody who's not even a developer, who's not even a programmer, and somebody who's talking about the 1080p upscaling or whatever through component before the update even happened. So anytime somebody pushes their opinion and logic as facts, makes it really easy for anybody to really refute their claim. Because if they claim it as fact and they can't prove so, then their claim of fact has no ground to hold foundation. Like how the Truth Setting You Free claimed that MS had paid off Kojima and other Japanese devs to speak about Natal in his PSU article. I made the counterclaim that he cannot factually prove that. He sidestepped the issue and fell back on logos and the proposition of fact and his opinion on the matter, basically meaning that he cannot prove his claim, which was my counterclaim. The bottom line is, if you can't prove it, it's a waste of time for you to say that what you speak and talk about is the truth and the fact. All it does is make it much easier for me or anybody else to refute or make a counterclaim to that claim. Now, this all could be avoided if people would accept that what they say is an opinion and their opinion, but that's never going to happen, because these people realize that everyone has an opinion, and so they try to preach above that opinion, try to say that they're talking about truth and fact. They want what comes out of their mouth to appear to be indisputable. And the reality is, if they came out saying that this was just their opinion, it wasn't the truth and the fact of the matter, then this would ruin their little stigma and their mantra of I speak the truth and the facts. Because the bottom line is, all somebody really has to say is, if somebody's coming out talking about I speak the truth and I speak the fact, all you really got to do is say, prove it. Show me your credible sources and your reputable sources and your information and your facts that back your claim. chances are they won't be able to prove it. Therefore, the claim of fact has no basis of foundation.